And joining me now from Brussels is the Secretary General of NATO, Secretary General Stoltenberg. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have called this summit a pivotal moment for the alliance. Why do you say that right now?
Because we live in a pivotal time, meaning that we have more global competition. We are faced with many security threats and challenges at the same time. The aggressive actions of Russia, cyber attacks, the rise of China, and also global terrorism. And the fact that we then have all NATO leaders meeting today, on Monday, together, is a unique opportunity to strengthen our transatlantic bond, not least because we have a new U.S. administration.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the things you mentioned there. Russia, for one, it is suggested that they've amassed as many as 150,000 troops along the Ukrainian border. Do you think that Russia is more dangerous even than it was when it annexed Crimea?
So what we see is a pattern of behavior where Russia is investing heavily in new modern military capabilities, including in nuclear weapons. We see they are using military force against neighbors, Georgia and Ukraine. And then we see that they continue to threaten, intimidate other countries, and that they try to meddle in our democratic political processes in NATO allied countries, including by or through different kinds of cyber attacks. So all of this is a challenge for NATO, and that's the reason why NATO has implemented the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense since the end of the Cold War, including with new battle groups, combat battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance. One of them led by Canada, the battle group in Latvia, and I've seen the Canadian soldiers, extremely professional, committed, and highly also trained, well-equipped soldiers in the Baltic region.
There is some suggestion that perhaps the United States will offer further troops for a presence in Europe. Would that be an ask of NATO writ large, and is that something that Canada may have to contribute to? Is there a need for more boots on the ground?
We are constantly assessing the need to change our posture, or the presence of troops in different allied countries. But no final decision has been made. But what I welcome is that we now have a U.S. President Biden, who is strongly committed to NATO, to European security, and who is ready to invest more in NATO.
I mean, that is the difference between this administration and the previous one, but they do share one commonality, and that is that President Biden also would like a more equitable sharing of the financial burden and contributions to NATO. Is that a subject that needs to be broached during this summit, that there has to be more investment made by countries like Canada and other allies?
Defense spending, burden sharing will be one important issue that will be addressed at the NATO summit on Monday. The good news is that we have a good story to tell. Since we made the pledge in 2014 to invest more in our defense, all allies, all European allies and Canada have increased. 7 consecutive years with increased defense spending across Europe and Canada. In total, they have added $260 billion extra US dollars for defense. So we need to do more, but we are really on a good track, and Canada is part of that.
Do you feel like NATO was discredited or destabilized under the previous U.S. administration, and how do you expect that will change after meeting with President Biden there?
There is no secret that we had some challenging discussions among NATO allies during the Trump administration. At the same time, I think that what we have seen over those years is that it's the strength of NATO. Is the importance of multilateral institutions like NATO, because our institutionalized cooperation goes beyond individual political leaders, and it is able to weather different political winds. And that's exactly what we saw over those years. We also saw a very strong bipartisan support to NATO, not only in Europe and Canada, but also in the United States. I had the honor of addressing the U.S. Congress back in 2019, and the message from the Congress both from Republicans and Democrats, is that they may disagree on many things, but they agree on the importance of U.S. being a committed NATO ally. So yes, we have seen some differences. Yes, there have been some difficult discussions. We will also have that in the future for certain. But NATO has proven extremely robust, strong, and that's exactly also why I welcome the fact that on Monday, we will make new decisions to further strengthen our alliance.
Ukraine has become increasingly vocal, if that's possible, about beginning the formal process of joining NATO. It was originally proposed, as you know, back in 2008. Given the aggression, the ongoing aggression we are seeing from Russia, is there a scenario by which Ukraine becomes a full member of NATO?
When leaders meet on Monday, I expect them to reiterate NATO's open door policy, meaning that we are open for new members. We have demonstrated that over the last few years by admitting in 2 new members, Montenegro and North Macedonia. We stand by the decision we made in 2008 regarding Ukraine and Georgia. But the focus now is on reforms, is to enable those 2 countries to meet the NATO standards, and NATO allies support them in those reform efforts.
And that has not been done yet, Mr. Stoltenberg?
Further Euro-Atlantic integration. Most importantly, we provide them strong political and practical support, and Canada plays a key role in providing such support.
You said that you will be discussing China, but you also say that China is not, quote, an enemy of NATO. Some nations, some of the NATO nations might feel that while not an enemy, China is increasingly difficult to deal with. As you know, 2 Canadians have been held in Chinese prison under trumped-up charges for an awfully long time now, and China refuses to release them. What is the NATO approach to China? How do you all sit around and talk about China on Monday, given that you want to have some sort of dialogue with them?
As the rise of China is defining for our security, for our transatlantic bond, of course, the rise of China provides some opportunities for our economies. We need to talk to China on issues like climate change, arms control. But at the same time, the fact that China soon will have the largest economy in the world, they already have the 2nd biggest defense budget, the biggest navy in the world, and they are investing heavily in new modern military equipments. That affects our security. And China does not share our values. We see that in the way they crack down on democratic protest in Hong Kong, how they oppress minorities like the Uyghurs, and also how they use modern technology, social media, facial recognition to monitor, to do surveillance of their own population in a way we have never seen before. So all of this makes it important for NATO to develop a policy, to strengthen our policy when it comes to China. And I also, of course, see what they have done by arresting 2 Canadian citizens, absolutely unacceptable. And it shows the coercive way of Chinese behavior. When a country does something they don't like, they react in aggressive ways. And we have seen that towards Canada with the arrest of 2 Canadian citizens. We've also seen how they have treated Australia. And I saw that myself as Prime Minister of Norway when the Norwegian Peace Prize Committee awarded a peace prize to a Chinese dissident, and then China actually tried to isolate and impose economic sanctions on Norway. So this is behavior that just makes it even more important that we stand together, all NATO allies.
Secretary General Stoltenberg, thank you for making the time today, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.